All right, so in this chapter, what I want to do is I want to start chapter 5. And basically here, what we're going to do is see trigonometry. Not in this section, as you can see, but we will see it today. The trigonometry we're going to do is what they call right triangle trigonometry. Basically, they say SOHCAHTOA, I think it is. Basically dealing with angles that are between 0 and 90 degrees. Angles in a right triangle, and you're doing trig of those angles. Sine of the angle, cosine, that kind of stuff. In the book, they do generalize it to include more angles, like negative angles, angles that are greater than 90 degrees. For time consideration, I'm not going to do that, mostly because they do that in Math 105, which one of the goals of this course is to get you ready for. I taught Math 105 before, and there, they at least I didn't, I don't assume that anyone has seen that trig yet. General stuff. SOHCAHTOA, I do assume, though. So, again, I'm pretty sure that's how it is when anyone teaches it. So, but again, that's why I'm only going to focus on right triangle trigonometry. Okay. I think that's all. Okay. The book goes a lot more into it, of course, but again, anything I don't cover, you don't have to know. Okay, so here, what I want to do in this section, this one's kind of short. I just want to briefly introduce you to what an angle is. Not only that, you're also going to get to see a new unit of measurement for angles called radians. Degrees you might be used to, because I think they use that a lot more often in society, I guess so to say. Radians, though, turns out to be nicer mathematically. Like in calculus and beyond that. People generally just stick with radians. So let's get started with this. So here, so basically I have to define what an angle is first. Okay, so let me just quickly do that. Okay, so to get to what an angle is, let me first define what a ray is. A ray is essentially part of a line. The idea is this. You take let me use the pen. You take a point on the line, okay? Any point you want. I'm going to choose this point, okay? Then you're going to take all the points on the line on one side of the point you chose. So if I chose all the points here to the right of the point, so if I chose everything on the line to the right, I get this ray below. That's just what a ray is by definition. Okay. I mean, you really don't want to say a ray is half of a line because a line has infinite measure. In other words, it extends infinitely in both directions. So you really can't say, oh, it's just half a line. I mean, really, you're not supposed to say that. So it's not precise. Now, the point I chose, that's the end point of the ray, by definition. That's just the end point of the definition. End point of the ray, excuse me. Now, from a ray, we can form an angle. Namely, what we do is we take that ray and we're going to rotate it about the end point. You can imagine taking this ray and rotating it about the end point here. Doing so, you're going to end up with this picture. Or if you want, you can think of it this way. You have this ray, same one up here. You can imagine taking this, rotating it about this end point. Rotating it until you get to this here, until you end up over here. Doing so, you're forming this angle here, which I'm calling theta. This is a Greek letter. Theta, theta. People usually use Greek letters for angles. I think it's just a convention. The arrow, again, we're following that arrow. The ray here, the starting position is the angle's initial side. That's the starting position of the ray. After you form the angle, the ray is the angle's terminal side. In other words, after you form the angle, after you follow this green arrow, right? The ray's ending position, okay, that's called the angle's terminal side. So the angle's initial side is the starting point. The ending point is the angle's terminal side. The end point that you rotated about, we call that the vertex. The vertex. Again, that's just a definition. And this is our angle theta. Okay, so we have our angles here. We defined what they were. Okay. Now, okay, so we know what an angle is. The question now is, how do we measure them? It's like, how do we measure distance, right? We need some unit of measurement. You measure distance, or I guess length if you want, by meters, inches, kilometers, right? Feet, yards. Well, for angles, there's two of them, two units of measurement for angles. There's degrees, and there's radians. I mean, I did write the formal definition of what a degree here is. And let me just say this, you can think of this as the definition. If you do a complete counterclockwise rotation, so that the angles, initial and terminal side, are on top of each other, like so. So if you imagine going here, if we kept going all the way around so that the terminal side was on top of the initial side, the angle's terminal side and the angle's initial side, you would have, by definition, 360 degrees. That's just what a degree is. That's what degrees are. That's how you can define degrees. That's 360 degrees. So you're going to love this. 1 degree is 1/360th of that complete rotation. Counterclockwise, okay? Angles do take direction into account. You have to take direction into account. Counterclockwise, by definition, the angle is positive. If instead you rotated clockwise, you would have a negative angle. Okay. And this is just notation down here. 1 degree, we can write that as 1 to the little circle. So degree here, yeah?
Oh, never mind. I figured it out.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Okay. A degree, as you can see, that's the same as raising it to the circle. So it's not really an exponent here. It's notation for degrees. It's notation for degrees. So 1 degree, 1 raised to this little circle. So this little circle you could think of as denoting degrees. So 360 degrees, that would be written this way. And again, yeah?
So counterclockwise is positive and then clockwise is negative?
Yeah. I mean, that's not going to be an issue in this class so much, but it's something I felt better presenting. So.
Oh, yeah.
All right, good question. Right, so if I were to, well, we'll see in a minute, but that's just part of the definition, though, when we form angles. So that's what's happening here. Again, the arrow here indicates the direction we go. You know, if I didn't have this arrow here, it might not be obvious what the angle even is. So, okay. So this is 360 degrees. This is how 1 degree is defined. Okay. But notice here, we have some examples. So for instance, 90 degrees is a fourth or a quarter of full rotation, counterclockwise. You know, 90 is a fourth of 360. So 90 degrees is 1/4 of a full rotation counterclockwise. Again, so this is here. Also, going counterclockwise, right? That's positive. Okay, and again, rotating, a positive and negative angle, that's not really going to be an issue in this class. So here's 180 degrees, right? That's half of 360 degrees. So that's half of a full rotation counterclockwise, as you can see. Half of a full rotation counterclockwise. So that's what we have. Good. All right. 180 is half of 360. 180 degrees, half of 360. That's what we got here. All right. Now that's what degrees are. Are there any other questions on that? Okay. Now we're going to get to radian. Just actually, well, let me just stop the recording.